Hey folks, want to remind everyone tuning in that we are still super pumped to be presented by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy offers a unique approach to fantasy sports. It's a simple pick'em style format. All you have to do is choose higher or lower than your favorite player's projected stats. Make sure to sign up using the link here in the description for the episode. It's super easy to play, really fun, not nearly as complicated as traditional daily fantasy. Huge growing community, and it is the best fantasy out there that you can find. Use the promo code BADGERS when you sign up for a free pick and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Make sure to head over to Underdog Fantasy using the link in the description for this episode and that promo code BADGERS in order to pick up that up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. That's Underdog Fantasy.
Bernstein again, big opening, pass 5, pass 10, Perko's a man, and he goes all the way to the 15-yard line. 17 yards out the terrace.
Welcome back to Believe in Badgers on the Believe Network, presented by BetOnline.ag and Oak Bridge Wealth Management. I'm Matt Perkins, joined as always by Badger legend, the Hebrew Hammer himself, Matt Bernstein.
Yeah,
Bernie, how are we doing today?
Dude, every day with you's a holiday, and then, we bring my guy BC back, and man, all I do is think about offenses with Brian Calhoun, and this one, I actually think the power spread would be outrageously amazing, even better than the other one we had a couple years, like the last 2 years, which maybe you could have only saved. But man, BC, great to have you back, my friend.
Hey, it's always a pleasure to join you guys here. I appreciate it.
It's not just BC, it's Coach BC now back at his alma mater, Oak Creek. Before we get into it with BC here today, I want to remind everyone that we continue to be proudly presented by BetOnline.ag, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025 and beyond. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. They've got the largest selection of odds on everything from the NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, plus MLB is right around the corner as well. BetOnline, they are the number one sports betting source for this year and beyond. For touchdowns, three-pointers, hat tricks, BetOnline has got you covered. Every play, every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. And of course, we continue to be proudly presented by our main man, Chris Anicetti, and his team over at Oak Bridge Wealth Management. Athletes train hard to be their best on the field, but who's making sure they're winning off the field? At Oak Bridge Wealth Management, they don't just manage your money. They handle your entire financial world. From building a rock-solid financial plan tailored for athletes to paying your bills, budgeting, setting up LLCs, securing financing for cars, equipment, and whatever else is needed so that they can focus on their game. If you're a collegiate athlete or the parent of a collegiate athlete navigating NIL opportunities, you need to get in touch with Chris Anicetti and his team over at Oak Bridge Wealth Management to maximize your earnings and protect your future. Your career is short. Make every single dollar count. Oak Bridge Wealth Management is where athletes build lasting wealth. Get in touch with Chris on Instagram at OakBridgeWM_Anicetti. That's OakBridgeWM_ANICETE. Or head on over to their website, OakBridgeWealthMGMT.com. That's Chris Anicetti and Oak Bridge Wealth Management. Get your money right with them. All right, folks. We're going to get into it now with Brian Calhoun, one of our favorite people. We know he's one of your favorite people. Enjoy the show. BC, I got to ask, you've been coaching track for a while now. What made you want to get back into coaching football? Like, what made you make the jump? Because that's a big-time commitment.
Yeah, and so I think what a lot of people don't know is the last few years I have been I was coaching at Brookfield Central with Coach Nellis, which, Joel Nellis is a teammate of mine, played at Wisconsin. I coached there for a few years. It kind of gave me the itch, right? And you kind of, get helping out the kids and trying to, pass down your knowledge as much as you can. And then not this past year, but the previous 2 years, I was helping out and coaching at Oak Creek. And so I don't think there's too many jobs that I would have thought about or maybe put my hat in the ring, so to speak. But, being my alma mater, being a place that I know can win. And so I'm excited about the transition. I'm excited about the kids. And I'm excited to get back to where, Oak Creek football was back when I played. Long time ago.
Wait, so BC, so that, I mean, you're in a place now, it sounds like, where the Badgers might be kind of down, trying to figure some things out. First off, you're a living legend, I'm sure, at your high school, just like I am at mine, good old Edgemont. What does what does Brian Calhoun, like, tell me what you do day one, you walk into that meeting. Like, what's it like to be there? Like, first off, it's got to be so cool, but like, what are you trying to accomplish? Like, what's your message to the team?
Yeah, I think it's, high school football is so unique, and it's so great in a lot of aspects. I think day one, I literally met with, had a quarterback club meeting. I met with the Oak Creek Youth Football League. And so it's like getting all these things to have the right, puzzle piece to fit into what, I believe how we should do things. And everybody like wants to talk about like culture, right? And like this and that. And it's like, to me, it's the way you do things. And like for me, I believe in doing things a certain way, and that's going to be our culture. And so that was the same message that I had to the kids, the young men, that it's like, hey, whatever we did in the past, that's the past. But going forward, we're going to act a certain way. We're going to play a certain way. We're going to treat the offseason and train a certain way. And so that's building the culture. And I feel like we've had tremendous buy-in. And I think it helps, right, that, I played there, had a lot of success there. My player of the year banners on the wall, my NFL jersey on the wall. So I think that gives us a little bit of instant
street some credibility.
Yeah. And then it's also, it's a place that, like I said, I grew up in. So the community's, backing the program, and everybody's kind of all in and have some more supportive administration. So I'm really excited, and don't be surprised in a year or two that, we're playing up in Madison.
Listen, I hope that's true, and I hope it's a direct pipeline to the Badgers.
I hope so too.
I do too. Nobody gets, when you coach high school football and you're the head coach, that you literally need, like you said, the culture, but you have to keep kids in, right? So that
100%.
And you have to go down to the youth. And I used to go to the games Saturday mornings. I was out there with like the third graders, just watching them, high-fiving them, because you really want to keep kids in the sport.
Yeah, and youth football is bigger than it's ever been, and so it's really important. Oak Creek is like the fourth or fifth biggest school in the state, and so it's important to continue to feed into the youth program to get those kids to come out and I think at that level, sure, you want to win, but it's obviously instilling the principles of football, how to play, having fun, how to be a good teammate, how to work hard. Those things are important, and then. I think it's really important to hire a really good freshman staff because that staff is the first staff that the freshmen that are entering your high school, kind of see, and it's a representation of the varsity squad. So all those things are important, but yeah, I'm excited, man. I really am. Like I said, there's not too many jobs I would have put my hat in the ring, but this one feels right and feels like it was a good time as well.
Well, I know you've already had a chance to talk to a couple of the Badgers assistant coaches. Since you became head coach, you met with, I know, Coach Spalding. I think you met with the offensive line coach, Coach Blazik. What's been your, now going from not, I don't want to say just an alum, but from an alum to now someone who is coaching the next generation of potential Badgers, what's been your interactions like with them? How has that, been going? And how is that side of the high school head football coach going, dealing with college and recruiting?
It's a different animal, right? There's so much. My to-do list gets longer and longer by the day, and I feel like I'm not getting anything crossed off. What's really cool though is in the month of January, obviously a lot of schools are on the road recruiting. Right now we have the number one or number two player in the state, James Thomas. He's an offensive lineman, tremendous player. So there's obviously a lot of schools and a lot of interest coming in the program. But that's also a testament, like when you build and have a really successful program, a lot of kids benefit, right? A lot of kids get recruited. But I was really pumped up, honestly. It was over Christmas break, and Coach Blazik was in town watching his daughter play basketball. And he was playing Oak Creek, and he texted me, said, "Hey, are you around?" And I said, "No, but I'll be there in 5 minutes." Right. And so I drove down to meet him because that was really the first chance I got a chance to meet him in person. And I've always been a big fan of his hire, even during the season before I knew him. But just getting to talk to him, right? He's a Big Ten guy. He understands the physicality that needs to be played at this level, especially offensive line. And I thought for the most part throughout the last season, the offensive line played pretty well. And I think that's a true testament to him and kind of how he views offensive line play. I think they're going to get things going in the right direction, talking to him. And I think this coordinator seems like the right fit. I think the Badger in me is frustrated because I don't think it needed to get to 2 years to this point to realize maybe, that was probably a hire similar to that was probably needed in the beginning. But we're not going to worry about the past. We're going to move forward. And so I think he is going to get that offensive line playing at a high level. One thing we did talk about at length is, keeping the top Wisconsin guys in Wisconsin. I think it's tough, when the days when me and Bernie played, the Wisconsin program had a brand that represented itself, right? It was a brand of physical football. It was a brand of really talented running backs and skill guys, and then having a really solid game manager quarterback, right? And I think at that time when you're successful, right, all the guys, in Wisconsin grow up going to Wisconsin. Now, some people may say, well, Brian, you didn't go to Wisconsin right away. I didn't, but people don't know, right? Like I moved to Wisconsin when I was 13. And so I didn't grow up a huge Badger fan, but I made the right choice and came back, right? And so I think that's the hard thing is keeping these guys in state. And now that some of these schools kind of since, say, blood in the water, so to speak, the program has been struggling. Now some other schools are coming in Wisconsin and picking up some guys. And maybe we don't ever have the chances against Ohio States and the Notre Dames. But I think when you have a successful program, you're winning 9, 10, 11 games, and you're getting guys drafted, and we got alums winning Super Bowls, that gives you a shot with almost anybody. And so I think that's important to keep the in-state talent together. And we just, haven't, for whatever reason, maybe have done so the last couple of years.
So BC, but how do you do that? Well, okay, well, so maybe how would you do it?
I think the first thing is the messaging. And I don't know what the messaging is. I don't know what the messaging has been the last 2 years. But I think you have to paint a clear message of what we are going to be as a football team, right? And so that's the first part. But after the messaging, then we got to put the words to work, right? Like it's words are hollow if there's no action behind it. And so you can say we're going to be this and that and this and that, but you're 7-6 and 6 and 7. Words are hollow, right? Or 5 and 7 or whatever it was this year. So I think you got to put a plan in place. You got to identify, who the top talent is in the state, and I think they've done a good job of that. And I get it. You're not going to be able to get every single guy. You're not going to be able to sign every lineman that you want or every skill guy based on whether it's NIL, based on whether they don't fit the box of what you're looking for. But you got to set a plan out and say, hey, we're Wisconsin. This is our history, right? We have the, 5th or 6th most wins in the last 20 years. Look at the guys that we get drafted. Look at the guys who are Pro Bowlers who have won Super Bowls. This is a program you want to be a part of. And then you got to back it up with what you're doing in the house, in the facility, in the weight room, in recruiting, in the season. And I think that starts there. It's not an easy task with the revenue sharing and all that stuff. That's not easy. And I'm not trying to say, Bernie, it's easy. But I think there has to be some type of formula where you get some of these guys to reconsider and stay in state.
Listen, I think it's actually, I think it's ridiculously hard to be a head coach in college today. Unless you listen, Ryan Day's people are asking him to resign or to quit because he lost to Michigan. Dude, he won the national championship, and you have haters. So I think there will always be haters. The concern is, how do you message? Like, I give Fickle a lot of credit because he's got to do these things. Like, I don't have to do them. But the message of Barry Alvarez was, hey, you're going to come play Big Ten football. And we're going to compete to win the Big Ten every year and play in the Rose Bowl. Those things I don't think are hot topics anymore for these new kids.
Well, yeah, it's a new wave of kids. I also think what's important is the style of or the type of kid that Coach Alvarez recruited.
Mhm.
Back when you were there weren't a whole bunch of 4 and 5 stars on that roster. And so therefore, if you're getting, say, a 2-star, 3-star, or whatever, to me, it doesn't matter. But if a kid can play. I think now the situation most college coaches in are you don't have time to develop kids. And I think that hurts programs like Wisconsin because Wisconsin's always been a developmental type program. Now you have to come up with a strategy based on how many people leave, based on how many people you retain, and then how many people we're going to take in high school. Because in those high school kids, maybe 1 or 2 of them will be able to contribute right away, 2 or 3. I'm not sure how many true freshmen played last year. But then the other 10 or 11, 12 guys are going to develop. Because here it's funny because, yeah, transfers help. Don't get me wrong. But if you look at the last 2 or 3 national championships, right, those teams have been junior and senior dominant teams. Now, whether it's transfer portal or whatever, experience still matters. It's development still matters. Transfer portal, at this point, I don't really care who develops you, right? But like, if you're playing for us and you're able to help us, then obviously we need to either retain you or transfer in. So, like you said, I don't envy any of the college coaches. I think Fickell has a tremendously hard job. Unfortunately, there's a lot of guys getting paid a lot of money to figure it out. And so are we going to have a $20 million roster like Ryan Day did last year? Probably not. But like when you play a certain brand of football, that at least gives you a puncher's chance, right? Like if you're physical, you don't turn the ball over, you're efficient on third down, you're solid in the kicking game and special teams, that at least gives you a puncher's chance in any game you play. I don't remember any game, whether we were favored or not, Penn State, Michigan at home, Iowa, where we just walked out and was like, we ain't got a chance, right? Like we always went in solid with our game plan. Now, at the end of the day, some teams may be more talented or we make some self-inflicted wounds, but we never walked in the game saying, woe is us. They got all these 5 stars. That wasn't the mentality of how we were brought up in that program.
So that's a good point. And I completely agree with you about, I always felt when we stepped on the field, no matter even the Auburns, the Georgias, even the bowl games, we could win that game. Like
we ran Auburn off the freaking field in 2000, technically 2005 season, right? Like to me, it's a mentality. Now, Bernie, we're old. That was 23 years ago. So, right. And so the new age kid, but I think some principles are tried and true, right? You got to play physical, can't make mistakes. Some of those principles last, decades and decades and decades, and we got to get back to that type of football.
Blocking and tackling.
It's Coach White, fundamentals, no mental errors. The one thing I hated when we got graded on Sundays or Mondays was to see an ME. Like a minus was okay, like you didn't really want them, but like you make mistakes in the game. But if you made a mental error, like jump off sides, do something stupid, holding, these things happen, but you want to limit them. I don't think the Badgers have done that yet. Now, I do think it could be the scheme. It could be a lot of things that was going on at, like talk about the offense. When you're not doing anything, you're trying to do everything. And it becomes, remember replacements? I bring this up all the time. You're in quicksand and you keep going, getting lower and lower.
Yeah.
So I want to talk quickly, BC, about Grimes. I'm a power spread guy now. Like that's what I coached in high school. I like to spread it out. I want guys out of the box, and I want my best guy, who's the running back, to touch the football as much as possible in a box with limited people in it. And one guy makes a mistake, you're gone, right? That's you. You make a mistake and you cut back, and there's daylight for days. What do you think about the hire? What excites you about Dupree staying, which is pretty impressive, off of like supposedly getting potentially picked by. This world's bananas, but potentially like other teams coming in saying you should come play for us for X, Y, and Z amount of money. First of all, I hate it, but what are you excited about for him, and what are you excited about for Grimes and even the line and other guys in that room? That room is
to be honest with you,
good, man.
I didn't know much about Grimes, and I know there's been some stuff out about him, and I haven't taken the time to really look. My plate's been kind of full, so I haven't really watched his style. I know I've seen some of his averages as far as points per game over his career. I think the power spread makes sense. I still hope that means we're going to be, under center, right? And I'm a believer in that because that opens so much in the pass game. That opens up in play action. What worries me sometimes is when you make, and this is what's worried me the last 2 years with the transition to Coach Fickell, when you make drastic changes, right? Two things happen. Number one, you got to get buy-in. And number two, you don't necessarily have the personnel to fit what you're doing. Now, I think the personnel that we had last year probably fits more of what we're doing now better than what we were trying to do in the past. And so there doesn't have to be a lot of learning curve. Sure, there's going to be learning, but like you have the guys to plug and play. We have, I think, it was explosive enough receivers. I think that running back group, I was a big fan of that running group last year. It sucks Walker decided to transfer, but I think it's going to work out for both ends because I like Dupree a lot. I thought Cade played really well with the limited snaps he got. And then you got those two red shirts. I think it's Dylan Jones, I believe, is one of them.
And getting into
yeah. And so I think – and so I really think that room is a lot similar to when some of the rooms that you were in, right, with Anthony Davis and Booker and Pettis and all those guys. When you create a room that is based on your competitive fire to play the position, right, to learn, but then every rep matters, right? Like when you have guys that you're penciled in the starter and you're not, maybe nothing's going to change no matter how bad you play, that deflates guys behind you because it's like, what am I really working for? But when you have a group that, hey, you're going to get 4 reps, you're going to bust your tail for those 4 reps. You're going to really try to, and like, to me, that's what I did even when I was a transfer and I had to sit out. I was like, these reps matter. I'm playing scout team, but these reps matter because I'm trying to improve my individual game for the team. So I like this running back room because they're young, they're hungry, and I think they're going to feed off each other to really improve that room. Then you add in the offensive line. I think the offense should be way better, right? Like it's night and day better. I love the quarterback additions. But I just think it's always tough when you change, right? Change systems like we did. And this is different than what we've done. And so I think the spring ball is going to be really important for them to figure out what we're good at, right? What can the kids, what the young men can handle? And then what are things that we can execute, right? Like I feel like last year, and I'll be the first person to say, I was very vocal on Twitter, vocal as much as you can, right? I was very Twitter figure happy because when you have a system in place, you have to figure out your identity. That means, what are we good at? What can we execute? And if it's too much for the kids, then that means we got to take some stuff back. If we got to run 3 run plays and 3 pass plays, but run it out of 10 different formations and shifts and motions, then that's what we have to do. And I think that's the frustrating thing, being, an old retired quarterback, running back. I'm at the house being a quarterback coach, on the couch. But like, that's what was frustrating about the last 2 years is like, well, what are we going to hang our hat on? And I don't think anybody had an answer. And so hopefully this provides us kind of a pathway moving forward.
I will say that the running back room brings me a lot of hope with the 3 young guys.
100%.
We said this a lot, Matt Perkins. Well, I had no idea why Yakimelli started to see less reps after like pretty much dominating the reps he got. Then you have Jackson Aker at fullback. I think he's going to move back. I mean, you got 5, and now Yakimelli and Jackson Aker are the old, the most seasoned guys.
Right.
Dupree has experience playing. Like, there's a lot of positivity and a lot of athleticism. And you're right. If I look back, it kind of reminds me of some of our rooms with guys who are going to play hard all the time. I'm excited for
Yeah.
that.
I agree.
I think my biggest question mark is quarterback. Once again, it's a big change. We have guys coming in. We're not recruiting, to me, positively in that space because we get good guys. They don't stay. Like the last 3 years, we've gotten good guys. None of them has played and none have stayed. We need to lock somebody in. Like, look, Bollinger wasn't born overnight. I mean, Stocco either.
Bollinger, Sorgi, Stocco,
All these guys, pretty much everyone who's ever played except for Russell Wilson, have Sorgi waited his time and got better every day. Everyone. Shabert went in through the best pass Wisconsin's almost ever seen, and he waited his entire career to throw that one ball. On my pillbox here, but like
talented kids aren't going to wait anymore. Unfortunately, I think that's the reality.
Especially quarterback.
Right.
Especially quarterback.
I would agree. Well, BC, let me ask you a question then. You're the head coach now. Do you have to get into all of these like NIL conversations? Do your kids ask you questions like, hey, I'm worth X, Y, and Z on this website. What do you think? Like, are you negotiating at the table? Like, what is going on?
No, I haven't had any of those conversations. College football's changing every day, right? And so in 5 years, it's probably going to look a lot different. And it's probably going to trickle down to the high school level. I haven't had any of those conversations, but and don't get me wrong, I think athletes deserve compensation. Totally. I just think the NCAA completely fumbled the bag, when they let NIL come out without any really parameters, right? And so NIL makes sense, but pay for play doesn't at the time. And now it's, they just fumbled the situation. Yeah. But I haven't had any conversations like that. But I think, to your point, Wisconsin development program. So maybe you don't take a higher rated kid. Maybe you take a loyal kid in theory, and you develop him.
But BC, so you have a lineman, right, who said you second in the state. So he must be getting letters from 20 universities at least. I would assume if he's second in the state, Notre Dame's on that board, Ohio, like everybody.
Bernie, people don't send letters anymore, man. They get some tweets sent to them with a graphic saying you've been offered. Like, okay, letters. Man. What's a letter?
What's a letter? Well, all I'm saying is you're getting offers. 1995. But BC, you must. I'm assuming you're that guy. That kid's going to come to you and be like, "Hey, BC," hey, coach.
Yeah, if you call him BC, I'm worried about the relationship.
There's a whole nother thing. Hey, head coach BC. Notre Dame's like you're a head coach. You also want to do what's best for the kid, but you're like, hey, Wisconsin's X with X amount. Notre Dame's X with X amount. Ohio State's X with X amount. Right. I'm sure these things are going to happen. That kid must be under maybe not a tremendous amount of pressure, but like he can really pick a university based off of dollar bills. Now, I have no idea who you're even talking about. And I'm sure the character is more different because he's your kid, but still, that could happen. And Notre Dame's not a bad school.
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on the level of kid. I think that's a conversation maybe more happening for like super high level, like 5 stars. And in my opinion, and if I was a college coach, which I'm not, I would kind of try to do like a tier system or kind of like an incentive-based contract, right? Like if you're a 5-star, cool, we're going to give you – this is what we give all of our 5 stars, right? This is what we give all of our 4 stars. Now, and then if you play a certain amount of percentage of plays or you start a certain amount of games or you have a certain amount, you give up 5 or less sacks. Like, sure. I think when you start to do these type of revenue sharing contracts are going to have to be a focus of what how you pay players based on just the structure, right? Like you can't just give people the money and then have another situation where guys are leaving and taking money like we just kind of went through, right? Like we just can't. So there has to be some type of structure. But personally, I think my athlete, I don't think he's rated high enough to sit there and say, hey, you got to pay me X, Y, and Z. I think that's maybe happening more at a very high level. And there's probably a small portion of kids that can go in and say, hey, as a freshman, this is what you're going to, this is my going rate, so to speak. But unfortunately, those conversations are going to be happening with a lot of kids around the country. And And Bernie, hopefully we get to a place where we get a 4 or 5 star. And I have to have that conversation, right? Because now kids are able to set up their future, get an education, and so forth. But like I said, I would probably put it as more of a tier structure. Like, you know what? But also in a tier structure contract, right? I'm going to fine you if you miss practice or late to practice. I'm going to fine you if you miss workouts. Because Bernie, we know guys who were late to workouts, they end up on the Stairmaster, you never see them again, right? Like, I don't have to do that anymore. Cool, you're late to practice, or you're late to the workouts, or you're missing class, then we can fine you, right? Like, I think there's ways to
wait
do
too much. It should be it's the NFL. I mean, really, it sounds like the NFL.
And so if you're gonna request all this money, then I'm gonna hold you accountable.
I actually said at the beginning,
that you said.
You do not get free meals anymore. You do not get free equipment. Because, well, I mean, listen, maybe you do, but you're asking for, let's say, $100,000. I don't know if that's a number or whatever. But now, if I'm the university saying, now I'm paying you $100,000 and giving you $20,000 worth of stuff over the year, you're never going to. You have to do that because no one's going to go to your school. But you can say, hey, listen, we're not getting scooters. Like, that could be outrageous things, and maybe a scooter comes with it now.
Right.
But yes, you're right. I think if you don't have contracts and you don't hold people accountable to anything, it's literally the wild, wild west, and I don't think any university is going to be happy.
No, and if you have a tier system, cool. If you're making over 25, or say if you're making over 50K, cool. Then you're not on this. You're not on the university football meal plan, right? Like they're like what
I want to take food away from kids. I know. Yes, I would take food away. I'm kidding. No, but I think there's a way to do it. Yes. Or you have to go stay with you have to go with the GA for 2 hours to go over film. There could be things that suck for you to do that are a penalty on some level. But I do think where you're going with contracts makes a lot of sense, because it's the only way to hold people accountable, to stay, to 100%. Develop them, and for them to know, hey, no matter what I do, if I play well and don't make mental errors like stupid ass, I will be on this team for 3 years and I will make X, Y, and Z. And I will have the potential to be a good player. Some guys take advantage and some don't. But I think it's important to have some kind of structure.
Yeah, even if you have like a 2-year contracts, like people have to sign 2-year contracts. After your second year, you can do whatever. I also think the transfer rule is out of control.
It's crazy.
Like and this is what I say: if a kid wants to transfer once, get it. No, free of charge. I get it. If you give a kid one medical red shirt, okay, cool, I get it. After that, then they have to sit out. Kids can't, unless you're doing baseball, and that's a separate thing. Kids should not be 25, 26 in a 4 or 5 year window playing college football, in my opinion. Like, I just think like kids should not be able to play 3 different places in 4 years, in my humble opinion. I just think that we need to reel this thing back in and say, cool, out of high school, it's a 2-year deal. After that, you can sign 2 1-year deals if you want. If you get granted a medical red shirt, like there has to be something that we do. Because right now, college football is not, I don't even recognize college football right now.
I don't recognize anyone in the jerseys anymore because they're not the same people.
Right.
Guys, I love you. BC, thank you so much, man. We're going to have you on 100
Thank you, BC. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in here to Believe in Badgers.
We can talk.
We can chop it up, dude. Oh, I love it, BC. Dude, I'm so happy for you, man. Congratulations.
I appreciate it. I'm excited.
Yes, we are very pumped for you. We know we'll have you back again very soon. Bernie, great to see you as always. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Until next time, on Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin.
On Oak Creek. Let's go, baby.
Let's go.